Everyman. Okay, the medieval morality play Everyman. It starts in a 10th edition um, of our book. It starts on page 558, right? This one here. Okay. Um, I want to say a few things about it. So it's a play. So, but it's a kind of clunky play. Um, we have allegorical characters. So we don't have, they're emblems. They're emblematic characters. So we have Everyman, who is not an individual so much as he's every single one of us. So there's a generalized quality. And yet it's also focused, right? It's also individualized. The idea that, if we want to understand humanity, and at least in this Christian universe of the play and of the medieval period and the Renaissance period. I mean, again, I'm not trying to proselytize, but you can't really get very far away from Christianity. Okay, so every man. The other thing here is we're used to thinking probably of drama as being upper class, upper crust, fancy, exclusive. Well, Shakespeare's, by the time of Shakespeare's late career, yeah, he has a patron. He has royal or almost royal patronage that is supporting Blackfriars Theater and the Globe, and it's a commercial enterprise, but it's also still need to have a patron. So some of the money's coming in from what people pay. Some of the money's coming in from somebody wealthy enough to want to be known as somebody who's a patron of the arts. Theater, however, is still looked down on as a fairly lowly thing, and we can see this in the medieval morality plays. And in fact, the medieval period, they tend to be anonymous. They tended to be working class. Um, they were often associated with different guilds. Okay, so a guild would be like the Weavers Guild or the Smiths Guild or the Tanners Guild. That is, the different sectors of work in medieval society was often organized into these groups called guilds, which related to like masters, journeymen, and apprentices. Okay, usually through family, but not always. Well, the guilds were responsible for some of the best drama that we have in a medieval period. And there's at least 3 types, one of which is called the mystery play. And the mystery play was not a crime drama. The mystery play was meant to elucidate the mysteries of the Bible, the mysteries of the Christian religion. And so you would have a play that would be based on, say, Noah and his ark, or you would have a play based on Christ's day of crucifixion. So you have the mystery plays, you have the morality plays, which were often more comedic than the mystery plays, though these all have a rough and tumble sort of mystery to it. I believe in one of the Corpus Christi plays, which is Body of Christ, and they were special group of mystery plays that were often put on around Easter. And there's an excellent one or two mystery plays in our medieval Norton. There's at least one Corpus Christi carol, is what they called it, in the medieval Norton. Also, we're not reading these; they're there. I recommend them, but the morality play is the one I'm using as the stand-in for medieval drama. But there's an argument in the Corpus Christi play about the nails they're using to hammer, to put Christ on the cross. I mean, to me, that's blasphemous even. I mean, really? But they presented it in the drama, and it was known at the time, and it would be this rough and tumble humor because these soldiers who are crucifying Christ, they don't know what they're doing, would have been the idea. And there'd be a humor in this, and they're acting like soldiers. It's like, like, what's the price of a piece of metal? If I'm remembering correctly, I do know the humor is there about the nails. And actually, okay, the Corpus Christi Carol that we have, I believe it was presented by the Pinners Guild. Pinner apostrophe S, Pinners, which was the Nail Makers Guild. So you had a subset of like the Smith Guild, those metal workers who specialized in making nails. If you think about construction and moving, just all the buildings of, say, London, you need a lot of nails. I mean, if you're not using wood pegs, nails are going to be a big deal. And I guess apparently it was enough. But think of the humor of that. You have the Nail Makers Guild decides to put on, and the members of the guild would play the roles, decides to put on the nailing of Christ to the cross. And what kind of sense of humor is that? A medieval sense of humor. And some of us might share it, but certainly there it is. Okay, this is going on a little longer than I had planned. So pause, stop, take a break, however you want. Okay, getting back to Everyman. It's a medieval drama. Characters are emblems. And so there's an air of lack of reality. I mean, do you really talk to your good deeds? Do you really talk to knowledge? And yet there's also a reality in this. Your friends are there. They claim they're going to help you. They'll help you kill somebody and bury them. But what? Go to death? Go to the last your last day with you? Some friends would, but these friends don't. The cousin, in fact, claims to have sprained his toe, and therefore he can't go with Everyman, though he has just promised he'd do anything to help Everyman. Okay. We have these emblematic characters, and we have a certain realism. I mean, when Everyman starts getting quite close to death, what does he lose? What are the things he's losing last? Strength, beauty, his 5 wits. Okay, but knowledge will go there, and good deeds, the things you did to make you a better person, to make yourself a better person in a better world, that will go with you. So you can see the medieval mindset. Obviously, this is a play that's meant to teach you things. Like, this is what we believe. Follow it. You don't want to get there at the last step. You don't want death to show up to take you, and you're not ready for your reckoning. Okay, so this is medieval psychology. This is medieval dogma. But notice how those two things are mixed. I mean, one reason you celebrate and remind people of what's going on in your culture and your belief system. And so, Everyman becomes, I mean, again, there's a certain reality, even those emblematic characters. There is humor. I mean, the thing about the friend or the cousin who was like, oh, I can't go with you, I sprained my toe. It's like, what a lame excuse. There's a rough humor to it. When death shows up and says it's time to go, you have to go on a pilgrimage, to meet God and die, and go to whatever's next, heaven or hell. Okay, I'm losing my train of thought now. So there's a humor to it, but it's meant to remind people. Okay, so I'm looking at my notes here, and one thing, I have this thing called joy in the well said obvious. Lots of cultures have this. We all know it, but you said it in a really good way. You said it in a way we can remember. Oh, that's so good. Okay, lots of cultures do that. Everyman, some of those medieval things, like, whether it was, excuse me. All right. Okay. This is my 3rd video I've ever made. Okay. So, I could be doing a better job, I guess. All right. Let's look at Everyman. So in your Norton, and let's see. So here we are at 25 minutes in. Okay, a lot longer than I expected. Okay, so in Everyman, you've got, this material in the beginning, which sets up the play. Please read it. I mean, this is good stuff. Everyman belongs to the midpoint of the morality plays history. The surviving examples of this genre include only a handful from the 15th century. Okay, now part of the point of a note like this is to give us a little bit of context. right? To give us a sense of, well, you can't read everything, but the experts are going to give you a little bit of background so that you can better understand what we do have. Okay, that seems good to me. I love that sort of thing, and it helps me get a better sense of what we have here. Morality plays apparently originated side by side with the mystery plays, but were composed individually rather than in cycles and were dominated by allegorical characters. Okay. Some morality plays address such diverse subjects as social and political satire, philosophy of education, Protestant polemic, prudential morality, and natural science. Okay, natural science through a Christian view, and I mean nothing bad by that. It's this the medieval version. Okay. From first to last, however, the dominant theme was the struggle of good and evil for the human soul, a psychomachia, usually depicted in the lifespan of a representative figure with a name like mankind. Everyman, untypically, so it's a little different than the others, it's one reason it stands out. Everyman, untypically, is devoted entirely to the day of judgment that every individual human being must face eventually. The play represents allegorically the forces, both outside the protagonist and inside, and within, that can help save every man and those that cannot or that obstruct his salvation. Because that's the idea. We're going towards salvation. Okay? And ultimately, this is a happy story. If you read to the end, you'll see. Okay. Everyman lacks the broad, even slapstick humor of many morality plays that portray as clowns the vices that try to lure the everyman figure away from salvation. The play does contain a certain grim humor in showing the haste with which the hero's fair weather friends abandon him when they discover what his problem is. The play inculcates its austere lesson by the simplicity and directness of its language and its approach. A sense of urgency builds. One by one, every man's supposed resources fail him as time is running out. Ultimately, knowledge teaches him the lesson that every Christian must learn in order to be saved. Okay, moral of the story. I find this useful, but I want to give you a couple, and so I read it out loud because I want to model. I use it. Why wouldn't you? Okay, the next couple things. So the cast of characters. It's actually in order of appearance. So this may help you as you're making notes, if you're trying to keep track of who did what, which one's which. That can be useful. So it's in order of appearance. And I only know that because I noticed it. Okay, so again, noticing things about these plays, about these readings, they tell you certain things and other things you figure out. Okay. So it's about 1485. Our first printing's much later than that, but that's how we go. Two key terms: reckoning, what you owe. Okay, you pay a reckoning in a bar at this period, in a tavern. You pay a reckoning at an inn. You pay a reckoning to God because it's what you owe because your life is Lent. So this might seem odd to some of you. It might seem odd to me. But this idea that, it's just lent to you. So you owe something. So you can't just walk away. Faustus in Marlowe's play later, he's going to think, in a certain sense, that he can set his own deal. Because he doesn't make a deal with God. He makes a deal with the devil. The other thing is, it said in what I read from the book, good and evil. In the later play, Faustus, he's going to have a good angel and a bad angel. Now, notice he doesn't say a good angel and a devil, but it's a good angel and a bad angel. Because the devils are bad angels. They're the ones who fell from heaven. Okay, and they're going to be whispering in his ear, which I know from cartoons. Psh, 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 take the cookies, don't take the cookies. That kind of thing. I hope you saw those cartoons at some point in your life. Okay. Just want to say something. There's a lot of rhyming to give a little bit of musicality, but it's more like Skeltonics. Which is in the near future, after this play. We have a messenger shows up and tell us what the play is going to be all about. That's the intro. We then have God. Imagine here you are. You're a member of the guild. This workman. With usually in a leather apron or something. And now you get to play God. Okay, so that I wonder how they, the stage action would have been. Okay. And God starts off with a complaint. People, they don't believe in me anymore. They don't take it seriously. They don't know what trouble they're in. They don't appreciate what I've done for them. Let's let's find someone and make an example. So the rest of the people, excuse me, will take it seriously. Okay. And so he calls Death to him. And so Death is a character. Death shows up. And you know what? Death is kind of grumpy. Death is kind of cranky. Death has sort of got a dark sort of style to him. And so he's Death. I mean, what do you expect? So this is a 15th century play, but it's not without subtlety. It's not without sophistication. Okay. It's not sophisticated in the way of a high style, high tech production. But it is sophisticated, I think, in terms of we can laugh about some of these things. If we can laugh about some of it, maybe you'll listen. That's the oldest version or oldest reason to have humor in some ways is there's the entertainment, but there's the instruction. Okay. Every man's surprised by death. Death shows up. No, no, no. And, it's kind of a grim situation. And Death has a line that gets echoed in literature from then till now. This is line 119. O death, thou comest when I had thee least in mind. O death, thou comest when I had thee least in mind. Which is what, one note of the human condition? Okay. And unfortunately, it mentioned that this is something that will matter for when we go to Paradise Lost at the very end of the term. Death points out, for Adam's sin must die of nature. That is, death is natural because Adam went against God in the Garden of Eden. And from then on, humans got to die. And that sounds harsh to me, but again, it's one of the penalties that's going to come up in Paradise Lost. Okay. Okay. I think I'm gonna pause. I might have more to say. It's interesting to look at character. I'm going to be giving you a list of quotations and inviting you to find out who said what. That's meant to get you into this play. I'm also going to ask you some key questions. Now, again, as with Shakespeare, as I always say, plays like this try to help you out. And so, for example, once you get to lines 463, there's a long speech by Everyman in which he reminds you of what's going on. Okay. Oh, to whom shall I make my moan? Whom shall I complain to? For to go with me in that heavy journey, sorrowful journey. First, fellowship. Said he would with me gone. His words were very pleasant and gay, but afterwards he left me alone. Then spake I to my kinsmen, all in despair, and also they gave me words fair. They lacked no fair speaking, but all forsake me in the ending. Then went I to my goods that I loved best, and hoped to have comfort, but there had I least. For my goods sharply did tell me that he bringeth many into hell. Okay, goods being material wealth. And you might remember the Partner's Tale and how all that gold basically paved the way for those three rioters, the three drinkers, to murder each other and go to hell. Okay. Then I went to my goods that I love best, and hoped to have comfort, but there I had I least. For my goods sharply did me tell that he bringeth many into hell. Then of myself I was ashamed, and so I am worthy to be blamed. Thus may I well myself hate. Of whom shall I now counsel take? I think that I shall never speed till that I go to my good deed. But alas, she is so weak that she can neither go nor speak. Yet will I venture on her now. My good deeds, where be you? Good deeds speaking from the ground. Because we don't do enough good deeds, and therefore, she in this case, she's female, I think from the Latin, is weakened and needs to be strengthened. But notice, part of my point, notice how we get to a certain point, we're 400 something lines in, and the poet wants you to reflect, doesn't want you just to forget what happened, 1, 2, 3, and so we get fellowship, kinsmen, goods. And so on one hand you have a recap and then you have a shift. Okay, well, I've made my complaint to these, they failed me, I feel ashamed. Where am I going to go next? I'll look to this. I'll look to my good deeds. Oh, she's so weak. And we get forward. Like, why? Frankly, I don't know why she's weak. I have to read the play to find out. And how do we strengthen? And what's going to happen to, I mean, I know what's going to happen to Everyman. You know what's going to happen to Everyman. But like, well, what exactly is going to happen to Everyman? Okay. And what's the moral as we go through here? Okay, because I have a note. Like here, I've got a note right at the bottom of my old copy. Good deeds. Why so weak? Wasn't obvious to me. And so I had to find out, and we get told. Okay. As we move forward. Okay. I hope the reading's going okay. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're able to shelter in place. I hope it's as good as it can get in these very serious conditions. And if I hope this wasn't too much of a burden to watch. And again, you don't have to watch it all the way through. You could do it in little snips. It's simply meant to put a human voice here with the old material that we're dealing with. Okay. Thank you very much. Take care.